Welcome to another episode of Careers Express, brought to you by the Cyprus Mail, where job seekers and professionals can stay up to date with what matters most in our world of work. Today, our topic is the power of artificial intelligence, its growing role in businesses, and its direct interaction with humans. Joining me for our discussion is Linda Boyd, the founder and CEO of Kleu, a digital coach for frontline workforces. Linda, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Elisabeth. It's a pleasure to talk about this topic.
Many companies now adopt and more commonly use artificial intelligence as it becomes more sophisticated, like Kleu's AI-powered emotional fitness coach for frontline staff. However, the process has its own finesse and learning curve. So let's start there. What is Kleu and why do we need it now?
Kleu is an AI-powered digital coach for employees which builds emotional fitness. Just like physical fitness, but for all the human, messy, emotional stuff associated with work and with life. So we're equipping employees to manage stress better, to connect with other people better, and most importantly, to collaborate to achieve outcomes together in the workplace. And that's particularly important now, I guess, for three key reasons. The first is obviously mental health. COVID has accelerated the underlying challenges that employers and employees were facing around mental health in the workplace. So it's now critically important, and I think obvious to everybody, that we really need to invest in equipping people to be able to manage stress and manage uncertainty and adapt to change so that they can continue to be productive at work. So Kleu helps organisations prevent mental health problems in the workplace before they happen. The second reason that we need Kleu now is automation. We can see that many routine tasks that have traditionally were done by human beings are being automated, and the pace of automation is picking up. So that will continue to happen. The beautiful thing about that, though, is it creates space for human beings to do what they're really good at and only human beings can do, which is the feeling part of work. So empathizing, building relationships with customers and internally, and actually collaborating to solve problems together. So the one thing that technology can't do is feel and solve complex problems that require creative thinking. So equipping people with the skills to be able to work collaboratively together to solve problems is really important right now. And I guess the final thing I would say is the reason we need Kleu now is talent has become a scarce commodity. Employees, as a result of the last couple of years, are choosing to work at home or work part-time. They want the flexibility to work anywhere. And they're also questioning, what's important in their lives. And they want to work for organisations that invest in them as human beings, not just as employees. Kleu is a tool that employers can use to attract and retain, quality talent.
Also, how to learn, of course, learn and practice. So how do frontline employees learn and practice collaborating with artificial intelligence?
Well, we've used AI to replicate a best practice human coach. I mean, there's nothing like having a person by your side, giving you feedback on what you're doing well, what you could improve, giving you hints and tips. But it's just not practical, really, for organisations to provide that sort of coaching to all employees. Often they can provide it to executives or senior managers, but it's really every employee that needs help to build their emotional fitness. So we've used artificial intelligence to automate that coaching process and replicate a real life human coach. Basically, employees go on a fully automated learning journey that's made up of 15-minute coaching sessions. So anywhere, anytime, on any device, they access a 15-minute coaching session, which is made up of a short coaching video, but most importantly, simulations that enable them to actually practice the skills that they need to build their emotional fitness. They get feedback on the choices they make in those simulations, and the whole thing is gamified. So employees can track their emotional fitness score and improve it over time. So it's very engaging, it's fun, and fully gamified.
So you mentioned interactive simulation. How does it work?
Think of the way a pilot learns to fly a plane. He's in a simulator, perfecting his skills before he actually takes off for the first time with hundreds of passengers whose safety he's responsible for. So Kleu is exactly the same. So we immerse employees in common scenarios that cause stress at work. So it might be dealing with a difficult customer. It might be getting feedback from your manager that you're not delighted about, or it might be dealing with a conflict with a colleague. We give people the opportunity to interact with digital colleagues, managers, and customers, and try interacting in different ways to see what happens. So they then get feedback from the coach on the choice they've made, and then get to keep practicing until they feel really confident that they're making the best behavioural choice to get the best outcome. Basically, a simulation, but for human skills, where people get to immerse themselves, practice without there being any real world consequences before they try that technique in the real world.
As someone who runs customer service training, I'm intrigued at how AI can coach when it can only recognize emotions without empathy.
Yeah, very good question. We are not using AI to recognize emotions. That's an important distinction. So we're using AI to drive the learning journey and to personalize it. So, for example, Elisabeth, the skills, you have obviously very strong skills in developing other people because you're a trainer. But there may be an area where you need to learn certain skills. So we use AI to identify what is it that you specifically need to develop, and we direct your learning journey and personalize it using AI. So we're not actually using AI to identify how you're feeling. We're actually using it to automate and to personalize the learning journey.
So will AI ever be able to analyze and understand emotions?
Yeah, well, it's already happening. I would say that it's pretty rudimentary, but already AI is being used to identify and understand emotions. So, for example, facial expression is an indicator of how a person is feeling. Natural language, the tone of someone's voice, even the pace and the words they use, AI can detect keywords and certain things to determine how a person's feeling. What I would say is AI is able to identify and perhaps to an extent understand a person's emotional state. But what a machine won't ever be able to do is the thing that's unique to humans, which is to actually feel and connect and truly empathize. So AI will continue to advance around understanding emotions because it's a hot topic. Emotions drive the decisions we make, our behavior, our judgments. In business, the way a person feels determines whether or not they'll buy from your company, whether or not they will stay loyal, and whether or not they'll recommend it to others. So AI will continue to advance in the area of emotions. I just don't think we'll ever get to the point where machines can actually feel.
After the completion of any training program, implementing the knowledge received and acquired, turning it into a habit is a challenge for organizations. How does Kleu's habit formation app work?
So Kleu is obviously not training, it's coaching. So usually we train people in a classroom or maybe online, but human beings learn by doing. And so often skills decay quite quickly because people don't have the opportunity to practice. So practice applying them. So Kleu jumps in as the coach that supports the employee in actually putting into practice what they've learned over and over again. So for example, Kleu nudges employees every few days to apply the skills or to have another coaching session. So it starts embedding those skills into behaviours. But that's not enough either. So we rely on the science of motivation and behaviour change, and we use technology in a very clever way to leverage what we call the brain's neural plasticity. So by enabling employees to practice their skills over and over again in different scenarios, we're creating new neural pathways in the brain. And the brain has this beautiful ability to adapt. You can think about it almost like plasticine, very malleable. So if we enable someone to practice something over and over again, eventually that gets embedded as a new habit, an automatic way of being. So, for example, the minimum amount of time it takes to build your emotional fitness is 12 weeks because that's how long it takes to embed a new habit.
So what about the workforce? Is the workforce embracing AI-powered tools, or is there any resistance?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say there's resistance. I think on the employer side, there's definitely maybe a lack of awareness of what's actually possible and available. And over the last couple of years, employers have had a lot of new challenges to deal with, and most have just been trying to adapt and grapple with how do we actually get people working from home in hybrid environments. You know, now's the time that we've come to terms with how that works mainly. Now, what are the skills that we actually need to address some of the problems that we're seeing, which is mental health in the workplace, issues with employee engagement and retention of top talent, and those sorts of things. So yeah, definitely not seeing resistance, probably still a little bit of a lack of awareness of the power of investing in human skills in business. But I think we'll see the momentum continue to grow on that. From an employee point of view, no resistance. I think, for a long time, employees have been saying, develop me as a person, help me with the stuff in my life that gets in the way of me being not just the best employee, but the best version of myself. So employees are just delighted that they've been given a coach to help them with all the human stuff, which is really difficult stuff in work and life. Yeah, certainly seeing employees embrace it and employers starting to understand the value of how technology and human interaction works together.
Which generation would you say has adapted quicker and embraced this technology?
I mean, Gen Z and Y, they obviously are digital natives, so there's no reluctance there. I mean, they're so used to living within, that digital sphere. We did have some questions about whether or not, the older generation, and I would say my generation, whether or not we, would be reluctant. But what we found is that people that traditionally maybe didn't embrace technology or weren't that open to going to talk to a psychologist or to working with a coach love Kleu, because it's this safe, private world where you can make mistakes and no one knows. So when employees are going through the Kleu program, the behaviours they choose, the decisions they make, the scores they get, that's private to them. So we're seeing that more mature employees are just loving the really private aspect. And of course, you don't even have to download an app to use Kleu. It's all browser-based. So there's no difficulty with technology. It's an automated journey. All you have to do is log in and click play and off you go. So it's really easy to use and it's secure, and that's really important.
Now we come to a subject close to my heart, emotional intelligence. Do younger generations need different or more training in developing emotional intelligence?
Historically, whether it's in schooling or in university or in workplaces, we really have never invested in human skills. We've invested in teaching people maths and science and all the IQ related stuff. And the reality is that will all be taken over by machine because it's about processing. And so I would say that irrespective of the generation of an employee, we know that in one of the top 10 skills for the future of work is emotional intelligence. We know emotional intelligence is the one thing that machines can't do. So I would say that anyone that is in a role that involves any sort of interaction with another human being needs development of emotional intelligence. Some people need it more than others, but the beautiful thing about EQ as compared to IQ is you can learn this and you can develop it.
And we have a clue.
Exactly. We can get a clue on how to be a better human being and a more effective human being in interacting with others.
Absolutely. So this emotional fitness learning tool targets the frontline defense. Can it be effective for other employees as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've chosen to focus on frontline employees because they are having to have some pretty difficult conversations with customers, as a result of the pandemic and some of the distress that customers are in. Frontline customer service roles or customer support roles, that they involve interacting with people all day, every day. And there's traditionally been a really high rate of burnout in those roles. So we saw that there was a big opportunity in that space. But of course, workforce, anyone that interacts with other human beings needs to build their emotional fitness. So there's no limit to the level of a person in an organisation that needs to develop their emotional fitness. It can benefit everybody. And I would say every employee right now, this should be fundamental safety training to try and prevent the impact of stress on people, irrespective of their job role. But frontline employees, I think, are particularly at risk. And of course, they're a huge proportion of the workforce. Often for any large company, at least half their workforce will be dedicated to serving customers. So it's an important place to start building emotional fitness.
Definitely. How will emotional fitness coaching change the experience of training in the future? I mean, now AI, what's next?
I mean, there's lots of things emerging in around virtual training, augmented reality, virtual reality. Technology will continue to have an impact on the way people learn. I think what we've been able to do is demonstrate a really strong link between developing human capability, so those fundamental human skills, and the impact that can have on business performance. So I think it's always been a little bit tricky for training to demonstrate, what's the actual behaviour change or the performance uplift that occurs as a result of investing in training. I think technology and what we've been able to do is show, well, if you invest in this capability, you can actually measure how much customer satisfaction goes up, or how sales conversions increase, or how productivity increases. So from that point of view, and emotional fitness coaching will change training, because by equipping people with the ability to self-reflect, manage themselves, collaborate with other human beings, we'll see training, I think, corporate training be a lot more about organisational specific stuff. So in a way, we're equipping people to learn more effectively.
And how can people join the revolution of shifting to an emotional fitness mindset?
I mean, first of all, there's 3 key skills that we build in the emotional fitness program. And the first one is, self-awareness. So helping people understand that emotions really have an important role to play in the way that we behave, but also how other people behave towards us. So the first thing to adopt emotional fitness mindset is the way people behave is certainly about them, but it's also about how they perceive me. So increasing your own self-awareness. The second thing is empathy. This is I can't emphasize enough how important empathy is in any situation. Often we get very caught up in just thinking about ourselves and what's happening for us. If we can focus on what might be happening for the other person and try and put ourselves in their shoes, that is incredibly valuable. And then the third part is about collaboration, this shift in mindset that together we achieve more. Finding a way to understand what the other person wants to achieve and working together to come up with a solution is more valuable than just me coming up with something on my own.
So much to think about. Before we go, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we are at an interesting time in history. The future of work is now. What's happened over the last couple of years has significantly transformed the way that we work and live. The future of work is about agility, it's about flexibility, it's about human skills, it's about automation. And, any employer who wants to have a sustainable business in the future needs to come up with a strategy to invest in the human capability that's required to drive business in future. So investing in the emotional fitness of a workforce is the way to solve a lot of the problems that we're grappling with around mental health, low productivity, access to talent, losing great talent. So yeah, my final thought is the future of work is now, and there's a massive opportunity to invest in the human skills for the benefit of employees, but also employers.
So the future is human. After all. Finally, how can people learn more about Kleu?
Absolutely. I would love to talk to anyone who's interested in Kleu and emotional fitness and building the emotional fitness of their people. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Linda Simonson of Kleu on LinkedIn. And of course, Kleu is KLEU. Or please follow us on Instagram, Kleu_in. and let's continue the conversation.
Linda, thanks so much for sharing these valuable insights.
My pleasure. It was a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks also to you, our Careers Express viewers, for joining us. If you found this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and follow us on our social media as well. See you in a new video very soon.